Hey guys, PlonkerBoy900 here and welcome back to a brand new challenge. Today is something a little bit different. I was invited to challenge Zwiggo and Tion to see which of the Lake Trio could beat Pokémon Platinum the fastest. I was actually given first choice on which of the trio I wanted to use, and I didn't want to take the easy option, Tion, so I decided to go with Mesprit. Today we find out how fast can you beat Pokémon Platinum with just a Mesprit. Mesprit is the awkward middle child of the three. Azel focuses on its attack and speed stats, and Uxie is built to be a defensive tank. By comparison, Mesprit is pretty much just a jack of all trades, master of none. It has decent bulk, which means it'll be able to survive a hit or two, and it has passable attacking stats as well, but they're nothing special for a legendary. It's also quite slow by legendary standards as well, which means we'll be getting outsped by a few key threats in this game, such as Cynthia's Garchomp. We don't learn many good moves via level up, however we do get just enough coverage moves via TM to ensure that I can just about get through this game without too much of a problem. Now this challenge isn't to see if Mesprit can beat the game, because we all know that it can, but the question is how fast. If you've seen Zwiggo's videos you'll know how these work, but for those who haven't, it's essentially a speedrun, except instead of measuring the run in real time, it's measured in the in-game time instead. So the time that comes up when I beat the champion at the end of this run will be my final time, and will be put up on Zwiggo's leaderboard, alongside Azelf and Uxie's time as well as the rest of the runs he's already done. Be sure to check out Zwiggo and Tion's runs after this if you haven't already, they'll be linked in the description below. Also there'll be no dabbing Delibird today, but look out for him in the next video instead. Okay, without any further ado, let's see how fast Mesprit can beat Pokémon Platinum. I start the game picking the male character and call him Plonk. No anime reference today, this is some serious business. Of course I name our rival Zwiggo, and this time it's not just to make fun of him. I pick Mesprit as my starter and we have to face off against Zwiggo before we do anything else, but we have the move Confusion, which means we take out easily in just 2 hits, and the run begins. Before we can fight the first gym though, we have to fight Zwiggo once again, but we beat him easily this time as well, so now let's face off against Rourke. We get there with a time of 40 minutes, which I think is quite slow, but this is my first time doing one of these challenges, so go easy on me. He starts off with a Geodude which just gets one-shot by a Confusion, and Cranidos is up next. Thankfully we're faster and Confusion does about 50% of its health, as he hits a super effective Pursuit for small damage, and then goes for a Potion. It turns out there's a speed tie though, as after we hit one more Confusion he actually hits another Pursuit, but we take the hit with ease and take out with one more, and now we're just down to his final Pokemon Onix. We are faster, but he does just survive a Confusion and hits back with a Rock Throw, but it only does 4 damage, so we easily take it out with one more Confusion and win ourselves the first badge. Before facing the second gym we have to fight Mars, and we get there with a time of 1 hour and 4 minutes. She starts off with a Zubat which gets easily one-shot by a Confusion, but the real problem here is her Perugly. It has Fake Out so I go for Protect, and then basically just start spamming Confusion. She has Feint Attack which actually does quite a lot of damage, but we get insanely lucky and confuse it on the second Confusion, and she hits herself with Confusion as well, which means we can bring it down to red health with another Confusion, and then just about survive a second Feint Attack, and hit one more Confusion for the win. We get to Gardenia with a time of 1 hour and 36, and this gym was actually more difficult than I anticipated. Turtwig is up first, but we get insanely lucky and get the Confusion, and she hurts herself in Confusion as well, so we can take it out with the second Confusion without taking any damage, and next up is Sharom. She outspeeds but just goes for Safeguard, which means we're not going to be confusing it. Thankfully though we're doing some decent damage, and her magical leaves really don't do too much even with a critical hit, and we take it out with about half our health remaining. Her last Pokemon is Lux Ray, which is weak to Psychic, so while we do get paralysed by a Stun Spore, we're able to bring it down below half, as she eats a Citrus Berry. We then just about survive a Magical Leaf, and I was hoping another Confusion would be enough, but she just hangs on. Thankfully though we get insanely lucky here, as she goes for a Super Potion, and then we get a critical hit, which takes it out from there. That was a lot closer than I would have liked. Here we find ourselves in another really difficult spot though, as Jupiter's Skuntank really causes us some issues. We do eventually get the win, but it took quite a lot of luck. Zubat goes down in one Confusion as always, and next up is Skuntank. This thing is immune to our Psychic moves, which means we have to rely on Return. She just goes for Smokescreen but we still hit, and we actually get a critical hit straight away, which brings her down to red health. She then eats a Citrus Berry which takes her out of healing range, and now all we need to do is survive a Night Slash, which we do with ease, but then we miss. Thankfully we just survive a second Night Slash and she doesn't get a critical hit, and our return finally hits, taking out Skuntank for the win. If you thought that was difficult though, then Fantina is something else entirely. Her Mismagius is incredibly difficult to deal with, as it's faster than us, and has the super effective Shadow Ball. A mixture of that and Confuse Ray see to us in no time, so I think I'm going to need to do some training. We finally beat her with a time of 2 hours and 39 minutes, but again this was entirely reliant on luck. Duskull's up first, but this thing is probably the easiest Pokemon to deal with on her team. One Confusion does well over half as she misses the Will-O-Wisp, which means we can take it out with the second one, and next up is that dreaded Mismagius. She goes straight for the Shadow Ball this time, which we actually survive quite well, and in return Confusion does about a third. We survive a second Shadow Ball just about, and then we get another lucky crit, which takes out from there. The rest of this fight is easy though, as her last Pokemon is Haunter, which we're faster than, and it's weak to Confusion, so it just goes down in one hit, winning us badge number 3, but yet again this was a really difficult fight. Before facing off against the 4th gym though, we have to fight Zwiggo, but compared to Fantina this was a walk in the park. Staravia's up first, and takes massive damage from a single Confusion as he just goes for double team. We don't miss and one more takes it out, and Ponyta is up next. A single Confusion does huge damage to that thing as well, as he just goes for Tail Whip. This means we can finish it off with the second one, and next up is Primple. I have the super effective Grass Knot which does about half its health, as we easily survive a Bubble Beam, and from there we can take it out with one more. His final Pokemon is Roselia though, which is weak to Confusion, so it just goes down in one hit, and we beat Zwiggo once again. Before facing the 4th gym though, I go to the department store in Veilstone City, and buy some powerful TMs. These include Thunder and Blizzard, but I only teach Thunder for now, but I'm going to keep Blizzard around for now as we're going to need it later. We then face off against the 4th gym leader Maylene, with a time of 3 hours and 9 minutes. This was definitely the easiest gym fight so far though, as I won this on my first attempt. Meditite is up first and just goes for Fake Out for small damage, and then I can just outspeed the next turn and one hit KO with a return. Machoke is up next, but of course it's fighting type so it's weak to Confusion, and it too goes down in one hit, and we're already down to our final Pokemon Lucario. She actually misses a Metal Claw, which is quite lucky, as Confusion does just under half. I'm going to need a little bit more firepower though, so I go for the Thunder the next turn, which after taking a Metal Claw like it's nothing, takes out from there, winning us gym badge number 4. Before we can fight the 5th gym though, we have to face Zwiggo once again, but this fight was basically the same as last time. Staravia's up first, but we actually miss the Thunder, and he goes for a double team. Somehow though, we don't miss the second time, and it takes out from full health. Ponyta is up next, but takes huge damage from a Confusion, and not only that, he gets confused as well, and hits himself too. This means we can take it out with one more without taking damage, and next up is Primple. A single Thunder sees to that thing no problem though, and again we're down to his final Pokemon Roselia, who just goes down to a single Confusion as well. Not gonna lie, Zwiggo hasn't really been a problem recently, but then again he never is. We get to Crash Awake with a time of 3 hours and 29 minutes, but this was definitely the easiest part of this game, as this was another first time victory. Gyarados is up first and we have the 4-time super effective Thunder, which of course is going to be a one-hit KO, and next up is Floatzel. Of course this thing is faster than me, but his crunch really doesn't do as much as I was expecting it to, and we don't miss the Thunder and it also goes down from full health, and we're already down to his final Pokemon Quagsire, which is 4 times weak to Grass Knot. Of course we outspeed, and again it is a one-hit KO. That was definitely the easiest gym fight so far. Byron is up next, but before we can beat him, we have to face Cyrus first. This wasn't a difficult fight now, but trust me, later on, Cyrus becomes one of the most difficult fights of the entire run. Sneasel's up first and goes down in a few returns after using a Hyper Potion, and his Murkrow goes down to a single Thunder, and his final Pokemon Golbat goes down to a single Confusion. We beat Cyrus for the first time, and then we can take on Byron. Oh no, wait, we have to fight Zwiggo once again. He was a little bit more difficult this time though. Staraptor's up first and goes for double team as always, but we still hit the Thunder and it goes down from full health, and next up is Heracross. It's weak to Confusion and takes huge damage, but just hangs on in the red and goes for a Night Slash. It doesn't do that much though, and we take it out with another one, and next up is Rapidash. He outspeeds and goes for takedown, but it really doesn't do any damage at all, and Confusion does over half. We survive one more takedown and take it out with another Confusion, and Empoleon is up next. It's weak to Thunder though, so it just goes down from full health. Honestly, I don't think we needed that crit. And his final Pokemon is Rose Ray, which is weak to Confusion. So you guessed it, it goes down in one hit. We beat Zwiggo once again. Get good. Now we finally get to Byron with a time of 4 hours and 16 minutes. This fight took a couple of attempts, but overall it was probably one of the easier ones. Magneton's up first, and this was actually the most difficult Pokemon to beat, as it resists all of my moves. Thankfully though, we get a critical hit Confusion, which means we take it out in just 2 hits. And next up is Bastiodon. Despite being a Grass Knot really doesn't do that much, but again we get a critical hit, which means we take it out in 2 hits as well. Now we're down to his final Pokemon Steelix, which is also a and takes huge damage from Grass Knot. He hits back with a Flash Cannon, but it hardly does anything, and one more Grass Knot seals the deal, winning us badge number 6 in another easy fight. There's some more Team Galactic stuff here, but I'm going to skip over this. All you need to know is, Saturn was really easy. I can now make my way up to Snowpoint City, and we reach Candace at a time of 5 hours and 10 minutes. Now this fight took a few attempts. Sneasel's up first and outspeeds us, but her feint attack really doesn't do that much, and we hit back with the return, which brings it down to red health, and then she fully heals up with the Hyper Potion, only to get brought back down to red health. We then get hit by one more feint attack before it goes down to another return, but we're in quite rough shape for the rest of our team. Next up is Frostlass, who outspeeds and goes for a double team, but we have the move Extra Sensory now, which does huge damage, as she heals up with the Citrus Berry. Instead of attacking me, she goes for another double team, and thankfully we still hit, so one more Extra Sensory takes it out, and next up is a Bomber Snow. Again I go for the Extra Sensory, and we just get a critical hit, which takes it out from full health. That was a good streak of luck. Her final Pokemon is Piloswine, so I go for another Extra Sensory, which does huge damage. She does go for a full restore though, and the hail is really starting to wear us down, but thankfully we can just about take it out before we go down. That was actually another really close fight. There's another Cyrus fight here, which again I'm going to skip over, because let me tell you, the very next Cyrus fight was the most difficult fight of the entire run, at least so far. We get there with a time of 6 hours and 8 minutes, but let me tell you, I was here trying to do this for hours. On our first attempt, we just about take out his first Pokemon Houndoom, but by the time his second Pokemon Honchkrow comes out, there's just no way we can win. Even on the attempts where we do get past the Honchkrow though, his next Pokemon Weavile just completely shuts us down, as it outspeeds us and has the super effective Night Slash, which is just too powerful for us. I kept trying and trying and trying though, and eventually we get the win. Houndoom goes down in 2 hits, and next up is Honchkrow, who goes down to a single Thunder. Next up is that Weavile again, so after being hit by a Fake Out and Night Slash, I go for a return, and we get a lucky critical hit to take it out from full health, and now we've just got 2 Pokemon left to beat. First up is Crobat, who goes for a Cross Poison for small damage, and thankfully Extra Sensory is enough to take it out from full health, so now we just need to beat his final Pokemon Gyarados. If we miss the Thunder here, we're in huge trouble, but I have to risk it. Thankfully we don't miss, and of course Thunder's a one-hit KO, and we finally beat Cyrus. Trust me, this fight took a good 2 hours to beat. I am so glad that's over. Now we can finally face off against the 8th and final Gym Leader Volkner, with a time of 6 hours and 37 minutes. This one also took a few attempts. The main problem was getting paralysed thanks to Jolteon, which slowed us down for the rest of the fight, so I had to come up with a new strategy, so I ended up giving Mesprit the Quick Claw, which gives us a small chance to move first each turn. With this item we finally get the win, but it still took a few attempts. Jolteon is up first, and of course paralyzes us with a Thunder Wave right away, as I hit back with an Extra Sensory for about half its health, but then we get the Quick Claw boost, which means we outspeed and take it out with one more. Raichu is up next, and has the super effective Signal Beam, but it really doesn't do that much, so we can easily take 2, and 2 Extra Sensories are all we need to take that thing out as well. Next up is Lux Ray, and we get the Quick Claw boost yet again, but not only that, we get a critical hit as well, which takes it out from full health. That was insanely lucky and definitely the reason we won. His final Pokemon is Electivire, but his Thunder Punch doesn't even do half of our remaining health, but while Extra Sensory does do some decent damage, he heals up with a Citrus Berry. We do just survive a second Thunder Punch though, and thankfully one more Extra Sensory is just enough to take it out, and we narrowly win the 8th and final gym badge. Now we can finally face the Elite Four, but before we do that, of course, there's one more fight with Zwiggo. Straptor's up first, so I go for the Extra Sensory, which is enough to take it out from full health even without a critical hit. Next up is Heracross, who also goes down to a single Extra Sensory, and next up is Roserade. It too goes down in 1 extra sensory though, so that's half of his team taken out in 1 hit. But next up is Snorlax, which is definitely the most difficult Pokemon on his team to beat. I go for the extra sensory, but it hardly does anything, as he hits back with a crunch. A second extra sensory brings it down below half though, as he hits 1 more crunch. But then I go for 1 more extra sensory, and we get a critical hit which just takes it out. And next up is Empoleon. I actually misclick here and go for another extra sensory, but it doesn't end up mattering too much, as we can survive a Shadow Claw with ease, and finish it off with a Thunder. His final Pokemon is Rapidash, but thankfully we outspeed it, and we even get a flinch with extra sensory. This means we can take it out with 1 more, and we beat Zwiggo for the final time. Right, now it's Elite Four time. First up is Bug-type user
Ron,
who starts off with the Yanmega. Thankfully we outspeed though, 1 single Thunder is all we need for the knockout. And next up is Scizor. I go for the Thunder and we get a critical hit to take it out from full health as well, which was really lucky as this thing could really mess me up. Vespiquen's up next but also goes down to a single Thunder, and next up is Drapeon. This was definitely the most difficult Pokemon to beat, as I go for another Thunder and we miss. He hits back with an X-Scissor though, which doesn't do too much, but then we get outsped the next turn, and he brings us down to about half. Not only that, but I miss a second Thunder in a row, as he hits 1 more X-Scissor to bring us down to low health, as we finally hit the Thunder. He eats the Citrus Berry, so things aren't looking good, but then we get the Quick Claw boost. This means we outspeed and we can just about take it out with 1 more Thunder, and now we're down to his final Pokemon Heracross, who just goes down to a single extra sensory. That was a very close fight, but I'm not complaining. Next up is Bertha though, and let's just say, I can see why Zwiggo hates her so much. This fight was hell. It took so many attempts to win this fight, mostly in part due to Rhyperior, which was just such a problem to deal with. After about an hour of attempts though, I finally get the win. Whiskash is up first, and this is definitely the easiest Pokemon to deal with. Extra sensory does over half, and her Aqua Tail's really not doing much damage at all, so we can take it out with 1 more, and next up is Hippowdon. It sets up the sand as I go for another extra sensory, and she hits back with a crunch for a small chunk of her health. 1 more extra sensory takes it out though, and next up is that terrifying Rhyperior. I go for an extra sensory as I just can't risk Blizzard missing, and thankfully we get the flinch as well. This means I can outspeed and take it out with 1 more, and next up is Golem. Again, I don't want to risk a Blizzard missing, so I go for the extra sensory, which again does over half, as we just about survived the Fire Punch after the Sandstorm damage, and we can take it out with 1 more, and now we're down to her final Pokemon Gliscor. We're going to go down the next turn regardless though, thanks to the Sandstorm, so it really is all or nothing. I have no choice but to go for the Blizzard, and thankfully it doesn't miss. It's 4 times super effective, so of course it goes down from full health, and we finally beat Bertha. Let me tell you though, that was not fun. Next up is Flint though, and this was another really difficult fight, but definitely not as bad as Bertha, that's for sure. Houndoom is up first, so I go for the return, and we just get a critical hit for the one-shot right off the bat, and next up is Flareon. I go for another return for about 60% of its health, as he goes for the Will-O-Wisp, but it actually misses. This means I can take it out with 1 more return, and Rapidash is up next. It goes for the Solar Beam for some reason, which means after taking a very small amount of damage, we can just take it out in 2 extra sensories. Infernape's up next, and while it does outspeed, his Flare Blitz hardly does anything, and we can take it out with a single extra sensory from there. We're now down to his final Pokemon Magmortar, but we actually got quite lucky here. I go for the extra sensory once again, and we get a critical hit, which leaves it on red health. He then eats a Citrus Berry but then flinches, which means we can outspeed and take it out with 1 more for the win. I know I made that look easy, but it did take a few attempts. Here is where we really hit a brick wall though, as Lucian's up next, and at my current level I just couldn't beat him. I tried and tried and tried for about 2 hours, but it just wasn't happening. I decided that even though I'd be wasting some time, I had to go through the Elite Four once again. I just needed a couple more levels before I could win, which we eventually do. Mr. Mime's up first, so I go for the return to bring it down to a sliver of health, as he goes for Reflect. He then fully heals up with a full restore, but thankfully 2 more returns are just enough to take it out before he can set up a light screen. Espeon is up next, so I go for another return, which doesn't do too much because of the Reflect, as he hits back with a Shadow Ball for small damage, but we obviously got the Quick Claw boost last time as he outspeeds us, and brings us down to low health. 1 more return brings it down to KO range though, and thankfully we get another Quick Claw boost, which means we can take it out without taking any more damage, and next up is Alakazam. We get another Quick Claw boost here, which means we can take out the Alakazam from full health with one single return, as we grow to level 69.
Lamau.
Next up is Bronzong though, who takes about 50% from a Thunder, and hits back with a Gyro Ball to bring us down to red health, but thankfully we don't miss, and a second Thunder takes it out. Now we're just down to his final Pokemon Gallade, who takes huge damage from a return, and then eats a Citrus Berry. He then goes for a Leaf Blade, which we just hang on with just 3 health remaining, and I need to make a decision. Do I go for the return, which might not take it out, or risk an inaccurate Thunder? I decide to play it safe and go for return, but he just hangs on. But then he goes for the Stone Edge for some reason and actually misses. Why did he do that? That stupid play is what caused us to win this fight, as he then goes for a full restore, which means 2 more returns take it out, and we finally beat Lucian. Now all that's left for us to do is take on the champion Cynthia. I was very surprised to find out though, that this fight was so much easier than Lucian. Believe it or not, I actually won this fight on my second attempt. Spiritomb is up first and it's actually immune to both return and extra sensory, so I go for the Blizzard instead, for about half its health, as she hits back with a Shadow Ball. We take the hit no problem though, so I just finish it off with a Thunder, and Lucario is up next. I outspeed and go for the extra sensory, which does over half as he hits back with another Shadow Ball, bringing us down to just 66 HP. I can finish it off with one more extra sensory though, and next up is the terrifying Garchomp. I still have the Quick Claw, so I need it to activate here, and thankfully it does. We're able to hit a 4-time super effective Blizzard, which is enough to take it out, no questions asked. Milotic is up next, and I learnt from my previous attempt that this thing has the move Mirror Coat, so a single Thunder doesn't take it out and it will just take us out. To get around this I go for return, and she does indeed go for Mirror Coat, so after it fails I go for the Thunder, which is now just enough to take it out. Togekiss is up next, so I go for another Thunder, but it's not actually enough to take it out, and she hits back with an Air Slash, which brings us down to 11 health. I'm naturally faster though, so a single return finishes it off from there, and now we're down to her final Pokemon, that being Roserade. This is definitely the easiest Pokemon on her team to beat, as we outspeed and go for the extra sensory for a one-hit KO. It was an incredibly close fight, but we've done it. Roserade goes down, and we beat Cynthia. This was actually a really fun run, but the question is, how fast was it? We finished the run at level 70 with a time of 7 hours and 58 minutes. Nowhere near the top of Zwiggo's leaderboard, but it's sub 8 hours, so I'm actually really happy with that. Who was the fastest out of me, Zwiggo and Tion though? You'll just have to take a look at Zwiggo's leaderboard to find out. Huge thanks to Zwiggo for inviting me to take part in this challenge, and thanks to Tion as well for taking part. Both their channels will be linked in the description below, so make sure to go check out their runs if you haven't already, and let them know that Plonk sent you. If you enjoyed this video, then please show your support by giving me a like, as it really is appreciated. And if you're coming here from Zwiggo's or Tion's channel, I hope you'll subscribe and stick around. We make fun of Zwiggo a lot here on this channel, but it's all in good fun. So yeah, if you like what you saw here today, then please subscribe. Also, let me know down in the comment section if you want me to do more of these solo speedruns in the future. I really enjoyed this one, so I'd definitely be down for doing some more. That's pretty much all I've got for you today, so as always, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.